WOLFPACK, assemble! What's going on? It's TC, and this is DNB Talk with Armanni Rain. Firstly, if you're new to the WOLFPACK, a very warm welcome, and if you're not, welcome back. And if you find any of the information in this video useful, please smash the like button. If you're not already part of the community, part of the WOLFPACK, hit that subscribe button to receive notifications every time I upload some fresh new information. Also, don't forget to check out my samples and presets for Serum, Vital, Massive, FMA. Check out my t-shirts and hats. Follow my Anthems playlist on Spotify. Follow my Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, links in the description. In this episode of DNB Talk, I'm going to be speaking to an incredible artist and MC based in the US that I've had the pleasure of touring with many times whilst on tour in America. This is my good friend, Armanni Rain. What are you saying, bro? You good?
What's goody, man? How you been?
Yeah, I'm cool, man. And just, I was deep in the zone editing another video when I saw your message and I was like, oh God, classic drum and bass.
I was like, man, you got me up early. Don't be forgetting about me.
Oh, I know. I felt so guilty. I was like, oh, it's going to take me 15 minutes. And I got this guy up early and I feel bad about it. What time is it there right now?
Now it's almost about 10 a.m. It's not that early. But I've been
Okay.
up since 6:30.
I just want to jump straight into it. What I normally ask people is, what was the first drum and bass tune that you ever heard? Because it's always like something, yeah.
Beneath the Mask,
By whom?
say is my first. Was it Mackay? What was the name of the artist? Jiminy Crickets. I think his name was Mackay. I would look it up, but I'm using my phone as the camera. I can't believe it. I don't remember his name. But it was Beneath the Mask. It was a Ghost in the Shell remix. I was like the first tune I remember. Very hard industrial drum. And I wonder if I could look it up real quick to get the artist's name.
I'm interested in knowing like what the situation was. I can do that actually for you. Hold on. I'll be your Jamie.
Appreciate it. What was the situation? What was my first drum and bass experience?
Yeah, man.
I was a hip hop head, especially a battle head, and I used to look in the Source magazine all the time back when that was a thing. And I remember seeing names like Ronnie Size and this thing called drum and bass, but I had no idea what it was. I had heard it in movies, but didn't know what it was. My first true drum and bass experience, I was actually supposed to do. I went to a friend who had a college radio station. He was DJing there. And he actually invited me there to do a battle with some other cat over hip-hop, and dude never showed up. So I ended up freestyling for like an hour. And then towards the end of the show, he was like, yo, you mind if I put on something different? And he put on drum and bass. And I believe that was one of the tunes that like really stood out to me. And I was like, man, what is this? And he played me a bunch of things too. That was back in like 99. So, yeah, that was like my first drum and bass experience. And then obviously afterwards we went and smoked blunts in the car, and he gave me the Red Suppin's Jungle tape. So that was 2000. Red Suppin's Jungle tape with DJ SS and Foxy and Skibbity on it, and that changed my life.
That's crazy. So it seems like drum and bass seems to kind of, I don't know, it's a very kind of like inclusive and sort of, it's a really cool vibe. It seems like everybody in drum and bass is like super chilled. Were you like changed by drum and bass in any kind of way?
Absolutely. I mean, before drum and bass, I was, just a lost soul floating amongst the universe, and now I am on top of the mountain. No, like, honestly, so I was a hip hop super battle MC, like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I grew up in multiple different types of societies. I was raised in Chester, Pennsylvania, which is like the hood burbs right outside of Philadelphia. And then towards my high school years, with my mom working hard to try to find a better place, we moved out to New Jersey, out in the woods in the sticks, where things were quite different. So that kind of experience of different type of cultures and people was a lot. So finding your place to fit in those things as well, you know what I'm saying? I became a bit of a misfit, too hip hop for some people, not enough hip hop for the hip hop people. That's like it's been my motto my entire life. So finding drum and bass and the rave scene, where you're right, a lot of it was about inclusiveness. I mean, we had our issues that countered that, but a lot of the rave scene in general, accepting anybody and everybody was it meant a lot to me to find an underground scene that appreciated the misfits. It's like when I first fell in love with Eminem, I fell in love because he was just like this kid from a trailer park who just like had the same experiences as we did. It showed that we were all the same. As far as the music itself is concerned, when I first listened to drum and bass, I was blown away by it, by the science, the mathematics of it all, the sonic ingenuity that comes within the bass lines and stuff like that. So I always compared it, man, to take it to a nerdy aspect. And I've said this a million times. If you ever watched the show Heroes, I don't know if you remember that. Heroes with it was a TV show, and there was a villain on there. His name was Siler, and Siler was a watchmaker. And when they all got their power, Siler discovered his power taking the watch apart. And once he realized how to manipulate time, it became the most powerful being on the planet. And I feel that way about drum and bass. I feel like, I swear to you, man, like from someone who's rapped over multiple genres, I feel like what drum and bass is mathematically is like opening up stone tablets, man. Like if you can figure out how to manipulate drum and bass, you are probably like there's so much in every genre of music that goes in there. There's so much in the in between spaces, you know? So like
what I always
studying
find with you when I know that you're on a lineup with me and you're going to be working beside me is I just feel safe in a way from, like I know that my job is going to be made so much easier when I'm DJing, because if I mess up and I do like a train wreck mix, you're going to cover it up for me, man.
heard train wreck ever.
It happens, man.
It happens to everybody.
It's
Not like I
occasional.
spit nothing but flawless flows all the time. No, but it's funny. It's funny. I've had a lot of fun, and a lot of times have come out about emceeing when things go wrong. What happens when the power goes out? What happens when there's no, you know what I mean? Like those moments are fun to me. You don't know how many shows have happened where the power goes out, the sound goes down. It's just me and a microphone and thousands of people, and it's like, all right, well, how do we fix this situation? And like, you gotta be on your toes and ready to go.
Some a cappella business has to go down in that situation, I feel.
Yeah, but it's studying the music, man. I was raised by DJs, hip hop MC first. So when I first came in, it was like lyrics, lyrics, lyrics everywhere. Ah! And then he was like, no, man, you got to respect the music and like become one with the music and take a step back and make the whole thing bigger than you. You know what I mean? To pick my spots and less is more kind of thing.
I feel like a lot of drum and bass producers were heavily influenced by the East Coast hip hop sound, if I'm honest. That very raw kind of sample based, just like take sounds and put them in and make them into something new, but with the original kind of vibe. People like Premier, for me, I used to listen to Premier's instrumental records over and over. I loved those records so much. I just felt the absolute kind of like love of the equipment that he was using and the way that he would gather those samples with like love and care. And you could really tell that the way it was strung together, that like there was just a lot of feeling in those tunes, and capturing feelings and capturing like emotions from the universe or from music, is a massive part of this thing for me. And just bringing it back to that East Coast thing, I can imagine that, I'm feeling like that was your kind of bread and butter sort of listening material when you were coming through as a battle MC on the East Coast, obviously. Like
when I was doing it, we was in the street corners and you know what I mean, like dodgy warehouses.
Okay.
That come with a crew. You know what I mean? So things was a little different back then, but but I love that about it too. It was very on the spot, very in the street. You know what I mean? I worked with producers, but most of them were in house. And then, funny enough, getting into drum and bass, sitting with Mason and all them, the whole Gasm crew, they taught me how to produce, and that started those. So I was doing a lot of the hip hop mixtapes with Mental Sharp and stuff. I was producing a lot of the beats with Mason and Pish Posh and stuff like that.
When you're writing for hip hop, I can imagine it's probably quite a different thing to writing for like ravers in a drum and bass environment, or is it a similar kind of thing? I'm really, really interested in different artists' processes when they come to write. Do you find that it's a similar thing writing for drum and bass as it is for the hip hop stuff? I just want to caveat this with, you sent me 4 tunes yesterday and you completely blew my mind. Like, literally, I can't say anything more about them, I don't feel, because I know that you want to keep things close to your chest about what it is that you've got going on, obviously. But
I'll talk a little bit about it, but yeah.
Fucking hell, mate. Them tunes. I listened to them like 8 more times after we were chatting on WhatsApp, and I was like, wow, like, just,
first of all,
you
that coming
killing
from
me.
you means a lot to me. You know, I've always respected your perspective and your ear like more than most, so I really do appreciate that. The process for me, honestly, varies from tune to tune. Like, there are things about drum and bass and writing to it, which I think are also starting to merge a little differently than they used to. But there are things about drum and bass that still primarily only focus on like the music still has to be the star of the dish. You feel me? And as an MC, I can change that and I can make my own personal albums, but I haven't made a personal drum and bass album yet. And when I listen to drum and bass, I'm normally working with a collaborative effort. So with any tune that I do collaborative, which is a majority of my career, no matter what genre I am, I try to put myself in whatever the producer's shoes are in, and that's how we collab. I like to use that versatility as an asset. It's just, so I tell people all the time, don't make a tune for me, make a tune for you and send it to me, and let's see where we can go with it. There's a part of fun in that with me too as an MC. It's like, that's why I started doing this, different genres of music. A lot of it was, can I? You know, it's like, all right, this is a completely different thing. Now, can I do that? You know, with hip hop, especially my solo hip hop, even though I work with a bunch of producers who I don't want to pretend they are second fiddle, because they are just as equal to me as my lyrics. It's a little more personal, and therefore the process in writing is just a little more personal. I don't know if the actual act of writing is any different, because that changes depending on the beat. You know what I mean? So I do put a little more into my hip hop stuff just because there's a personal connection that I'm trying to portray. If that makes sense.
That's I totally understand. There was one part of what you were saying yesterday that really captured my imagination, which I can edit this out if you don't want this to be revealed to like
we can talk about
people. But what? One thing you said was no rules, and I just like my brain just kind of like, it's like a koala bear, you know, in my mind just sprouted a rainbow or something. It was just like, you know, right, so I heard it in them tunes. I was just like, whoa, okay, no rules. And I can hear it from the production side and from the writing side. Your flows in them tunes, you're jumping through like 6 different flows throughout the tune. And it's like, and I'm not even really schooled in hip hop, but let's be clear here. I don't really know that much. I don't listen to that much. All I listen to is drum and bass. But I know my sort of the East Coast old school, and I know quite a lot about, you know, a few little bits and bobs. But just the way that you did the no rules thing, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. Let me start from the beginning, because this all continues to revolve around the fact that I started in one place and ended in another. It's another reason why I don't push too much on the like I push back for the people who's just like drum and bass and nothing else, and that's not a slight to drum and bass. Drum and bass, it's quite apparent that the blood, sweat, and tears I've poured into this culture for the last 20 years of my love and dedication for it, the flags I've waved. That's never been it. It's just that drum and bass pulled me from somewhere else. I was a hip hop head. My roots are there. I put hip hop into drum and bass. They are one and the same. So growing up, listening to hip hop, a little bit of R&B, going to high school, listening to house, getting into the scene, listening to drum and bass, playing some breaks parties, some two step, learning the different pieces of this watch gave me different flows. And I've gotten to the point of my career now where I want to switch them up as much as possible from a lyrical standpoint and an ideology standpoint. Ideology wise, I want to make the hardest trap tune one day and a tune for Disney the next, and there's no fan confusion. You know what I mean? Like the having that versatility has taken a long time to educate my fan base that I do that. You know what I mean? So from the mental sharp days of hip hop to tech dubs to the tunes I've done with Gasm to the countless dubstep tunes, I've created this ever changing lyrical ability. And I'm working on two separate projects right now. One of them is with the Upbeats. It's called Society of Numbers. We let out 2 EPs prior to this. And
Is
now
that
we're
hip
working
hop
on
or drum and bass? Just
hip hop,
out of
full
okay,
hip
all
hop
hip
album.
hop. Sick.
Snake and Wolf, yeah, man. Snake, Wolf, and the Penguin. And that's like a tap into one side of my psyche. I like to. The Society of Numbers is almost encapsulating a feeling of battling out of depression and fighting inner demons and things of that nature, and becoming the one messenger sent into the light, the sun. You know what I mean? And then the Society of Numbers, which is obviously a play on algorithms and what is plaguing society, so to speak.
It's pretty
The
mad
other
right
album,
now, really. Like, if you want to.
it's a little crazy. It's funny how it all comes to a head. So
I
we're
mean,
working on
it's
that.
just like
We're
the
about
most peak that it could have possibly been right now. Surely. I mean,
for
how
as
much
long as
more
I've been
fucking peak
around.
does
This
it
is
need to get?
definitely.
I can't even go
I don't
outside
want to
without wearing a
know.
fucking.
I don't want to know what if this isn't peak. God, like just let the aliens come
That's
down
what I
and
was gonna
speak.
say. Space
Let's just
fucking
get it.
aliens, man. That's what I was just gonna
It's
say.
actually that point, which is a funny thing to say because, like, during this whole situation, the government has told everybody that aliens exist, and we talk, and everyone just brushed it off. It's so crazy, man. Like, everyone's like, "Yeah, of course." Like, you know what I mean? So, it's been weird, man. It's been a weird one. So, and it's funny because you were speaking earlier about emotions and pulling the universe and things. And I've always said, if you want to talk about the discrepancies of making different styles of music, when I make things for other people, a lot of it is sometimes I get the freedom to speak to you differently, but a lot of times it's hyping the crowd. And what I feel is the most important when you take music or make music is tackling the emotional side. Anybody can make you happy, or not anybody, but anybody, most people can make you put your hands up and happy. But can I touch something in your heart? Like, can I remind you of what the soul is about? Like, it's much more of an achievement to make you feel my pain than anything else. You know what I mean? I feel like that even within itself brings a happiness of understanding and relatability, empathy, so to speak. Sorry for the truck driving by. I don't
You're
know
all
if you
good.
can hear.
When I'm working with you, I always
Real
know
quick.
that I'm not going to hear any cliche. That's my favorite thing about you. Is like, there's not a single, like, you might say something that sounds like it should be something that I've heard before. And I love that because it's just like this sort of switch in my mind, guys. Like, that's, he's obviously spent quite a lot of time either just on road, schooling on this, or, because I obviously have traveled most of the world doing the drum and bass thing. And I've heard a lot of resident MCs. I'm a big fan of MCs. I love MCs. I think that's a really important part integral of what we do, And I love the way that you just slightly adjust, like some of the things, but there's nothing that I ever feel like, oh no. Do you know what I mean? It's always good. It's always vibes. It's cool, man. It's a good thing. When I'm writing, the thing I always try and do is capture a feeling. And it's really weird because I get feelings wherever I am. If I just take the dog for a walk down, I live by the coast now, and I get like a feeling there. But there's a feeling that I get, let's say EDC Vegas, and you kind of walking away from the stage, and there's no one about, and you're in the middle of the desert, but there's a big party going on, and there's just that sort of feeling of like, this is happening now and could maybe not happen again for me or like for anybody now. And it's like, I get this sort of like feeling that I want to capture in my music, which is like the emptiness of the desert and the experience, but also that feeling of, it's so hard to, this is the kind of the artistic kind of challenge, isn't it, to try and impart what it is that you feel onto others. I gotta say, the tunes that you sent me give me the feeling of that, which is like, it's like big stadium feelings is what I'm getting from that music. Like, I'm just feeling that.
Look, the second project, the one that you're speaking on, is with Bro Safari, Nick Weiler. And I want to say his real name because Nick is probably, I am blessed to be around and have come in contact and become friends with a lot of extremely talented people. And Nick's range is otherworldly. And I've worked with Nick now with the Bro Safari tours for about 5-6 years. And we always talked about working on music. And at the same time, we were both in a place now, due to age, due to our careers, where we were both kind of trying to figure out where we wanted to be as well. And I'm glad we waited. So right before the pandemic started, I wrote a verse for To the Few. And as the pandemic hit, that verse hit a little different. And that's when we expanded the rest of the song. And in that moment, I think the two of us kind of like saw it, like, okay, this is the time. So we've been quietly working on this album for about 7 months now. And the reason why it's taken so long is because of that fact. There are no rules. It's not formulaic. I've done formulaic in the past. The last EP I worked on, which I'm very proud of, with Mayhem, the 38 EP, which was a complete rebranding of everything I do. It was, 6 songs, 5 videos, documentaries, all bleeding into each other with a driving storyline. But even then, it was a bit formulaic. While it was like, all right, I no longer am trying to prove anything. I don't want to prove to you I can rap. Now, what am I saying? What's the origin story here? And I knew that Nick was also in a similar place, and that sonically we would come together. So when we started making those tunes, that was the rule. It was like, there are none. You know what I mean? Like, let's not worry about hooks go where, if this needs a hook, doesn't need a hook, doesn't need a love song, like, let's just make music and see what happens. And one of the tunes I sent you, is in a completely different time signature. It's just like, that was the first thing.
Man, the first thing I sent you is like, what?
Like,
but it's so good. It's cool.
That's environments of so many different genres and backgrounds. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, that idea came from the simple fact of me loving Golden Brown. You know what I mean?
Of course. And yeah, man. I mean, it's pays homage to so many tunes with the weird time signatures. It's also kind of a bit of a fuck you to all the DJs as well. Like, fucking mix this, or it might be a challenge to like.
Also, a thing I like to do a lot, man. I was talking with my man Bear, and the very first line is, "We only make opening and closing statements." Like, I like making tunes that you're either gonna play first or play last because you can't mix them. Man. Like, that's the goal. It's like, okay, how do I make the tune that the DJ wants to play last and go home? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
No, I like that. I wish I could play the tunes to the people, but they're gonna have to wait. I hope that we don't have to wait too long. But I'm really feeling it, man. Really, really feeling that stuff. When you're recording, like, are you recording in your own environment, like at home, like in a comfortable environment. It feels like with those tunes that you've been doing, there's so much in there that you must be sending. Like, are you sending projects to the producer, or I'm just interested in like because you're not working in the same environment. I'm guessing you're working like remotely from each other.
No. Luckily, I'd say about 70% of, maybe even higher, 80% of every tune you ever heard, I did here at the house.
Yeah.
Some of the 38 EP I did at Mayhem's studio. We worked on those together, obviously. But most of the tunes you've heard, collabs, everything, I've bought studio equipment so I can record here at the house. I do on the fly. I do licensing and syncing stuff, so they need me to do stuff on the fly. I don't. One, I can't afford to continually go to a random studio like that isn't mine, which I'm working on, obviously, building my own stuff. So
Yeah, of course.
it's been a valuable asset. And then when COVID hit, I already had everything here. So a lot of the stuff you hear, I've done here at the house. Nick and I, anything I've worked on, obviously I'm not going to New Zealand, so anything I've sent the upbeats, I do everything here on Logic, and then I bounce everything down, super labeled, wet, dry, all kinds of different folders, load them up to Dropbox and ship them across.
Active.
We don't have AIM, we don't have AIM anymore, you know, like AIM,
Yeah,
AIM
that's
was
what
the
I'm
one.
saying.
But yeah, you know, I try to stay busy.
No,
And
it's good. What kind of I love the vocal sound. So, do you want to reveal what microphone you're using for? Is it the one that I'm looking at now, or is it like?
No, this is. This
I was gonna say.
God, no. This I got for the podcast, which you can catch every Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, called Routine Poutine, twitch.tv, Armanni Rain. Anyway.
No, please plug it. I mean, that's awesome. I was a guest on there, and
We're on the show, yes.
it was
Thank
a
you,
really,
but-
really enjoyable experience. A little intimidating, but it was awesome, you know, to
Why?
do that. Well, because it was like a Zoom
It's
call, and
supposed
then
to
I
be
thought
that.
it was you, but there's like 4 people, and I'm like, oh.
So we do it. The funny, the part I laugh because the whole point of the podcast is to strip away that whole situation. I mean, you know, we talked about music a little bit, but it was mostly just about you and like how are you? You know what I mean? Like that's the whole point of that show. So check us out. We got Echo Brown coming up. We've had all kinds of guests. It's from Goldie to Bro Safari to 12th Planet to SS to Jumpin' Jack Frost. You have been on. It's been a blast. I use this mic specifically for that because it came with an audio mixing board software that's just miles above and plug and play. So anyway, that's what I bought this for. The mic that I actually use for recording, up until about 3 years ago, I used an AKG Perception 420 for literally everything. And then for Christmas one year, Nick actually bought me a Rode mic.
Oh, like an NT1A?
Bro, it's beautiful. It was funny because for years I've used that AKG and loved it. And people always say, man, like, wow, I can't believe you did this in this crib. This thing sounds great. And then I turned that Rode on and just went and I heard. And I was like, holy shit. Like, what was that? And it's just like changed everything. So like, you know.
That's
and it's
cool.
funny now. Yeah, so I
I
use
got
that.
2 of those Rodes here. Oh, I don't know if you got the same one as me, but I got a Rode NT1A, or 2 of them. And I remember a similar experience, actually, because I only ever recorded on dynamic mics when I was singing. And then when I got onto like a cardioid thing, it was like levels, just to be able to hear everything and be able to like, you know, turn up the top end on it. The one thing I've got this other mic, it's Neumann U87, like a new one. I mean, it's the shit, but it's really good on drums and stuff. But my problem with it is it's almost too detailed. And then you get like the sort of the sound of like, I don't know, it's gross to say, but like the spit in your mouth and that kind of stuff. And I really actually like this that I'm recording, that I'm speaking to you now, which is a...
Yeah, what is that, X? Is that a Shure?
It's an SM7B. So that apparently Michael Jackson was all about this microphone. Apparently, for some of the vocals that he did. I really sort of...
Jackson.
Well, no, you can't.
As far
It's
as sound is concerned.
100%, man.
Very
I mean,
clear.
it's just... Well, you know, their recording techniques were really interesting. When you watch the videos of Michael Jackson and in those big studios, there's videos where I've seen him doing his vocal like overdubs and that kind of stuff. Super inspiring. and he's like 5 feet away from the microphone. You know, he's not like right up against the thing. He's like sort of like way back, but a huge sound comes out.
Huge. That is interesting. 'Cause it's very rare you see that too, and there's multiple reasons on why that is for our audio heads out there. From one, you're catching the rest of the room, which might have been the magic in the thing it's within itself. Then there's, as a rapper,
I guess as a rapper, you want that close. Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? So, but then you have to worry about, you know, your pop filter handling the proper things and yada, yada, yada. But if you're dialed in right, the last thing I want to do is be back here when I rap. There's so much.
Sometimes,
I don't care what you're in.
Sometimes I hear like plosives coming through with a pop filter where I can kind of perceive the pop filter in a vocal in quite a lot of like pop tunes. And I'm not quite sure if I like that or not. You know, I feel like it's almost become like a part of the sound where people are like just proper eating microphones.
That's so terrible. I had to learn how to not do that. When you're young, man, you coming up, you do a lot of. I go back and listen to the mixtapes now, like, oh my god. You know what I found interesting about recordings back in the day too? Like, I found the way they layered things was crazy. Like, and a lot of it was just due to the limitations they had. But I remember at a young age listening to the Beatles or whatever in headphones, and like they would have a whole instrument panned completely to the right, and you'd be like, it's almost as if your left ear wasn't working, you would never know that sound was there. You know what I mean? Like,
if you're sampling, it's really useful because you could like almost take pieces out of a tune. But that's by the by. I think because stereo was so new, they were like sat in the studio and like 2 speakers. What? So they just
let's use it.
Oh yeah, let's just put it over there on the right. That would be great. Let's put the bass on the right.
just because we can. And I would be like, what am I listening to? And you know, when it all comes together, it sounds amazing. Or when you're listening to it on a system, you can't tell. But in headphones, I always thought that was a little crazy.
I'd say what's really weird for me is like when you listen to the parts of some old tunes, there's like Bohemian Rhapsody parts out there. And if you actually listen to all the different parts in there, the individual parts aren't that good. Like you kind of expect the parts to be better, but it's the sum of the parts that really, it's amazing how like some parts can be shitty, but when they're in the mix, it's kind of like you don't really hear that. You just actually hear this. I love it too. I love it. I
live in that world. I actually just had this conversation with Binks. Shout out Binks, super dope producer. You guys should follow him. Again, range is beyond belief. But I sent you that little funky tune, the little feel good joint.
Yeah, big.
And when he sent it, we had fun. I had fun recording it. And when I sent him the parts, I was like, "Isn't it hilarious?" If you listen to the stems, they're horrible. It's just like, you know, I make the joke all the time. If Pharrell has taught us anything, is that anyone can sing if you can hold a note and layer it properly, right? So like, the song sounds dope, but I can't. I'm not a natural singer. It's just
the singing's good though. I feel the singing in those tunes, man. It's cool. And
I can hold it.
You know, there is a thing about just making stuff happen. And as an artist, you can get so bogged down in like, oh, I've got to do my emails today and rah, rah, rah. But actually, just capturing that idea and executing on the idea and however the fuck it comes out, it really doesn't matter. Make it happen and then see what happens after that. Maybe you have to improve a couple of bits and bobs. But unless you've kind of constructed the bare bones of something, you're not going to even be able to kind of construct any further around it. And you were talking earlier about vocal layering, and I've done a lot of vocals in my time, and one of the tricks I really like is to sing something a load of times in harmonies and just pan them all left and right, and then you get this sort of like super wide, but it's so forgiving as well. Like double tracking is really forgiving. That was like a 70s thing, I think, for all those like rock bands. They would all like double track. And I think even like you were talking about the Beatles, a lot of their songs had like loads of close delay on them, and I think it's because they didn't like the sound of their own vocals. Auto-tune didn't exist.
Right.
So you just like super effect it up. And even like, what's that guy, In the Air Tonight? Phil Collins had a lot of like close delay on his vocals too. I mean, the one thing I keep thinking, go on.
So many tips and tricks when you're recording vocals. Like, it took me a long time to understand that layering vocals doesn't mean they need to sit in the front. There'll be times I have tunes out there, it sounds like one vocal, but there's just a little teeny layer underneath of it just to give it a little more thickness, warmth, and character. And I found over the years how to manipulate that to a degree. And then, on hooks, it's completely different because then you use that. And it masks a lot of the in-between spaces, man. It's actually fun to do.
Are you like a writing, recording guy? So like you write a hook or you'll write a verse and then you'll think, I'm going to write the next piece and then the next piece. So like write, record a piece, write, record a piece, write, record a piece. Or are you more like write the whole thing and then adjust slight parts as you go? Because I'm really like, I would just write each piece as it went. But it's such a staggered flow that the songs actually sounded really bizarre in the end because it would be like bits and bobs. And if I actually went in the other direction and wrote the whole song properly with everything that I could possibly need, even like more than I was going to need, and then do the recording session and then like a mixing session, then and like an overdub session over the top of it, the result would be a lot stronger. I'm interested to know what you kind of like, where you would go when you're writing. Is it that kind?
It's interesting to hear that from a producer's aspect. So lately, nowadays, it does depend on the tune. Because if I'm doing a collab where it's just a verse and a hook, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to write the entire thing. That being said, I have done a lot of recording, sending to you to make sure that I'm on the right path. I do that a lot now.
Okay, yeah, because I suppose if you're working with other people, criticism. Yeah.
So it's just like, does this even sound good before I write a whole freaking thing to it? 'Cause I also, you know what I mean? Like, the other thing about me too is while I love freestyling and all that, that is a specific talent now that I save for the stage or if needed somewhere else. But I'm very, very intricate in my lyrics now. So I tend to take a little more time than I used to. So my normal process now.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
The intricacy, bro. You're. It's so good.
I have a thing. It's a blessing and a curse of like.
It's okay.
There's lyrics in my rhymes I don't expect. I can't wait for 10 years from now to be like, yo, I didn't realize you said that. You know what I mean? Like, I live for that. It's a blessing and a curse.
Almost, that could be a drum and bass influence on you because you can fit so much more in there.
I say that all the time. Again, going back to opening up the watch. When I listened to the first experience I had of hearing an MC over drum and bass was Foxy and Skibbity on the same tape, who are two completely different contrasting styles, you know what I mean, of MCing and lyrics. And while Foxy has the voice that literally cuts through everything,
do you want a revolution?
Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is from over in the corner. It's like, yo, you just like, yes. Like, I want to hit someone. I don't know why, but like, you know
I remember when he was doing the lyric, fuck off.
Like, yo, Fox Mills, man. I love that dude. Him and Skip are like, and
legendary.
Skip would find just pockets. And like, when I heard that, and then I explained, I talked to him one day and he was like, you know, it's almost like I'm an instrument and want to be in that pocket. And then I find lyricists that I love, the Nas's, the Eminems, the Royce, the 5'9's, who literally learn how to manipulate bar structure. And then on top of that, my hip hop in me of being a battle cat of constantly having to use metaphors and all this on a regular basis. My whole goal in life was like, all right, how can I make this sound really simple for you to digest if you just want to hear the song, but also within that are like super layers of multis and things like that.
Do
And
you
like I
read
said,
a
my wife
lot?
makes fun of me all the time. Yeah, a little
Yeah,
bit. I'm not gonna say
I feel like from listening to the tunes that there's a reader there because I feel like I don't know. I'm more of like a listener. I know I absorb information a lot better from listening to like podcasts or
same.
audiobooks and that kind of stuff. But when I'm looking for some kind of musical inspiration, I watch like the weirdest YouTube channels of like dudes who like take apart jet engines and like for me because the process for me is long, so I almost look at it as like I'm working in like a wood shop or like a metal shop or something, and I just want to have like a workmate beside me kind of just talking about processes that I can adapt to my processes. You know, there's like metalwork guys that are talking about how to use like a metal lathe and like so it's so detailed, and it's a similar thing with production. You know, when you're chopping up a break for the 300th time just to like put it into a sampler, or you know, those process, having someone there just talking to you in the background. But then I also like to sort of watch a lot of sort of weird conspiracy theory stuff for that sort of, and I sample it all the time. I found this one the other day that just blew my mind. It like the whole thing is like 3 hours long, and there's like 100,000 samples in there that I could just take out, and I'm so inspired. It's like my happy thought is I'm going to go through that and just make myself like a huge sample pack.
You know, it's funny to hear that because, like, to me, I think your production is crazy. You're always trying to find a new way to do it. You're not stuck to a specific. You have your particular sound because that's just in your DNA, but you can tell that, man. Like I've said this to you a million times, and I've said it publicly. The fact that like if something's super dope out, TC's going to remix it, and it's going to sound sick because you're so in tune with so many different things that you can hear that in your music, man. Like, and I think
I
hearing
don't
that,
think I always get it right. I want to be honest and say, with my own tunes, I don't always get them right, and I don't always nail it. I know it seems from your perspective, but from my perspective, I
wait,
feel
all of
like
us say that,
sometimes,
right?
yeah. But that's
Don't we
just
all?
like the
I mean,
super
some of
critic
us.
within us, you know. Like from an outsider's perspective, maybe you don't, you know, see that, but I feel like I make so many mistakes all the time in my career, and I feel like, you know, you have to learn from all your mistakes as you move forward. And I feel like trying to do this YouTube stuff is really feels right. And that's, I guess, the one thing I try and pursue is like the things that feel right. And it's kind of weird. Like, even if I get a new piece of equipment or something like that, if it doesn't feel right, I just stick it straight on eBay. And nowadays, I never used to do that, but I'm just like, if something doesn't feel right, I'm just done with it. I'm out, you know?
You're taking a minimalistic approach, man, and you only use what you need. I feel the
It's
same.
really like a feeling now. And I write so many tunes, and I know that most of them are probably going to come out.
There's a bucket of files just with lyrics on them that are just they're never gonna do anything. You got to
Yeah.
get it out, man. Like you have
Yeah.
to.
I feel like we
I
were talking about like Michael Jackson and bringing people like, uh, talking about people like Prince. I feel like Prince had like a vault of tunes that never came out. When he passed away, they also found, I think, 220-ounce bars of gold in his house.
I did not know that.
It's just a weird fact.
Chilling.
NFTs on your radar yet?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Oh,
actually
the
talking about.
NFTs. You know what? If I could do an NFT now, bro, I would be doing it. I'm like, yo, I could do the 3D stuff. I'm gonna
Well,
jump.
there's it's other aspects too. First of all, you can do it to anything. It's really more about to me, the core of it is twofold. One, you're already working on your thousand true fan aspect that you would apply anyway to what we do, Patreon-like things of that nature. So there's that ideology involved, and then the other side of it is the collector aspect. So how do you bring in the collector, that niche market, and blend your true fans together at the same time? As a video game nerd, someone who was big into things like Second Life, and me, I've been in the gaming space for a very long time, and now switching all of my stuff over from hard disk Blu-rays to digital media a lot. What happens if the world shuts down? I don't own those things anymore. But now you can own digital. That part alone is monumental. But how will that evolve is a completely different conversation. Like, I've had a very long conversation with my friend. It's like you need something to make that make sense. You need the iPod. Where's the iPod? Nobody cared about MPs. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I understand what you're saying. I still feel like it's very much pie in the sky as opposed to gold, like physical gold, because physical gold gets mined out of the ground, and like it takes an enormous amount to get that stuff. But I do see like a short-term play in the NFTs. And I see what you're saying about giving value to things, because I sell digital products. So the only thing keeping me alive at the moment is selling digital products, which is samples and presets for like Massive, Serum, and Vital, which is like sounds for synthesizers, but digital synthesizers. If I could like encrypt those to add that extra level of security and maybe sell, I don't know, like a limited 500 of that pack and have that value, it would be so much better, because people at the moment can just buy it once and then send it to all their friends. So I mean, I could see how that would work. You were talking about the way that it doesn't feel as secure. There's a weird thing that I've been thinking about a lot, which is Elon Musk's Starlink and how he's going to put the internet into space. And like that, well, that's like the permanence of the internet. Because at the moment, the internet doesn't have permanence because of if we have like a terrible solar event. Actually, that would probably take out the satellites anyway, so it'll be fucked.
Yeah, true.
But you were talking about collectors. And this is something that's resonated throughout a couple of these talks. I did one with SS, and he was talking about how he was a massive collector of sounds and records, and he believed that being a collector had kind of dwindled in this age. And actually, I think what you're saying with the NFTs is that maybe there's a resurgence, but in digital kind of collections, which is really interesting because it's not physical, and maybe that's a sign of my age. But like,
not just true. That's with everyone. Now, of course, obviously, the young kids who literally have done nothing but sit on a computer since they came out of the womb, it's a little different. But this is the thing I've been talking to friends about. And let me just preface this with, I'm new at this as well, so I'm not going to pretend like I know everything. I'm just showing my perspective. Is you are completely untraining everything you knew up until this point, because that's the part that I see. I see the collector toy aspect, like that part of your childhood when you made things, when things were exclusive, that part of it is different. It's not. A lot of questions people came up was like, all right, well, how's this going to help my Spotify streams? And it's like, literally ignore that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that has so. The collector aspect has gone away. We used to collect comics. I used to collect toys, and like we still do to an extent. But that whole market has gone away because everything's become digital. So now this kind of brings that back into the forefront, because you can add a certificate of authenticity to these things. I'm not saying. I think that no matter what happens, cryptocurrency is an unstoppable future. There is digital media that is also an unstoppable future. But up until this point, you couldn't make it real. You know what I mean? It was just like you'd put it in the universe and it's in the ethos and that's the end of the conversation. Now now not only can I trace it, the things that made me scared about blockchain is the reason why this is going to work, which is ironic. You know what I mean? Like, I was big on the security and giving out our information, and now that's the same exact reason which gives these things authenticity, because you can trace it, you know where it goes. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like made me stop and rethink the whole thing. It's not that you're old. You're aware of the situation. You just have to think of it from a completely different aspect than you would normally.
As I kind of develop through my life, I have this sort of like, as I become older, I'm really happy with the way that can like get up in the mornings now, and I feel like I'm getting a lot more done. And my ability to maintain a positive mindset is just 10,000 times stronger than it was, even a year ago. I think, every year I find so much fulfillment in the smallest shitty little tasks. It's so fantastic, even if I got to pick up the dog shit from the garden, or I got to do the dishes, or I don't do the dishes, I got a dishwasher or whatever, you know what I mean? I actually have learned to be able to kind of gain, to feed myself dopamine from those experiences, which is fantastic. Yeah. But going back to something that you said a minute ago, which is, I'm not a computer kid. I'm not from like that generation where, I didn't have mobile phones when I was a kid. I remember like one kid in my school had like a bleeper, and it was super cool. I didn't get my first mobile phone till I was like 19 or 20 years old. Computers were just almost, this sampler here is from, I think, 2000. So, this would have existed throughout my sort of late teens, and I used to have some computers. I always imagine or wonder what it would be like to be around the technology now, but being a kid and having all those options. Would it just be kind of boring, or would it be, if it just be able to sort of navigate your way around computers, and even more, I feel like I would have a lot more depth. But maybe I wouldn't, maybe I understand them from a different kind of mindset. It's interesting.
I think it's more of the latter. I think you would just look at it differently because, because we come from that era and watch so many different forms of mediums evolve. I mean, the jump from cassette player to DVD to MP3, like, CDs.
Don't forget mini disc in the way in between.
Yeah, think about it. Like, think how quickly those things completely were like revolutionary and disappeared in a heartbeat. And the argument will always be there's a trade-off, right? So kids have a whole bunch of things accessible for them now, and with the push of a button, the world is in front of you. But at the same time, just like our parents before us who worked endless hours just to make ends meet. It's kind of the same aspect, same ideology, right? It's like that grind that we had to do to get there gave us a different perspective on things. So it's just a give and a take, in my opinion. I don't know.
It's pretty bizarre that I can make a living from just doing samples and presets. I mean, it's just sort of like selling digital products and like creating like digital media. It's just so sort of, we're making our own TV now, man. It's just so weird.
Totally. Like I have my own network now. Like, yeah. in actuality, and like we're branching out beyond that too. My whole thing with selling digital media too is like going back to adding exclusivity to things. We have the conversation last week about what makes an album and should you make an album, and if you're going to make an album, how should you release it? And I think even talking like that is a bigger problem right now, is the fact that like we've been in such a rat race for so long and adapting to the new Spotify streams or Bandcamp that we're now thinking about albums of like what's the best way to release them instead of making a cohesive piece of art, which kind of goes back to the conversation I'm having with Bro Safari about there being no rules, as not being formulaic. And while that has taken away and stripped away the fact that I just want to make a cohesive piece of art because it may or may not stream, that's kind of what selling this digital comes back to. I don't have to worry about that anymore. I can once again treat it like an art piece. You know what I mean?
I'm in the same kind of place as you. I'd love to make an album, and those thoughts of whether things are like. Hold on a second. Super weird. Somebody's drilling outside, but I thought it sounded like my girlfriend was like screaming. But it's just like, what's going on? But I'd love to make an album, and I kind of feel a lot freer now than I ever have musically, because like I don't have any record deal, I don't have a publishing deal, I don't have a manager or anything like that. I'm just doing it myself. I'm just sort of like, getting by really happily and creating this kind of content and really enjoying it. So there's no like pressure for me to be like, I have to make my money from music. And actually, that is the beautiful thing. I want to just, at the moment, I'm thinking I want to make an album just using hardware and just put it out and be like, see how it goes.
Send me some things.
I did send you a few bits,
And you're amazing. So I'm like, yes, continue on. Also, look, man, I wish I paid attention to the business earlier on, but coulda, shoulda, woulda, time is irrelevant. And I'm in the same place right now. It's just like, all the tools are at my disposal. I just want to make art. So let's just do that. And that's the other thing too with the conversation we were having, is you could just do that and you can make it exclusive and as
I think one thing that's got to be really important for any kind of project that you do now though, and it always has been important in music, is the visual element of it. You got to have that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time over the last year learning that stuff. I'm in a master class right now for learning After Effects. I've done a bunch of freestyles and I've created the videos for that. I just dropped one just now called Complex City. You can go watch. It's a completely like recorded. I bought green screens and cameras and all these things, and I've been learning how to do this while creating. And I did the To The Few video, which is my first full-length video. You got to learn how to do it, and it's only going to get better. You know what I mean? It's another tool in your toolbox, but you gotta add something to it now, and that's the beauty of all this, right? It's like
I've been learning this like 3D CGI stuff quite a lot.
I'm heading there, man, but that is a daunting world, bro. That is like a whole nother beast.
I got you, bro. Like, I can help you with that. Let's
do it. I'm down.
Yeah, whatever information you need, I've got. I've made a full CGI environment and did a mix in there, 30 minutes long. Took me 2.5 days to render.
Oh, wait. I remember you did all that?
Yeah,
so
I did
we talked about this before. I didn't realize that you actually did all of the...
I set up green curtains in my room here and set up a GoPro and set up my decks and a recording device, and then recorded myself against the green screen, comped myself out of it, put myself into a digital environment, and created the digital environment within a piece of software, and then kind of bounced it out. And yeah, man, so I did that, and I did two or three full music videos in CGI too. But what I really want to do is work out, and it's very easy to do, it just takes time, is to put 3D stuff in the real world for the next sort of bits of videos that I'm going to do. So
a little bit of AR or...
Just something like, I don't know, you got like shots of you, but then you've got 3D stuff happening around you. I think would be super sick.
You can actually even push that to an AR space. It would be really cool.
Like augmented reality vibe. Yeah, I mean, then we're going into some depths of code that maybe...
But I mean, like, that's kind of like the thing though, right? It's like, that's the funny part. That's the funny part about all this is like, I did the same thing with Complex City. Like, I have multiple cameras that we worked on for other videos, but for this one, I grabbed my green screen, my iPhone, I jumped in Final Cut, and I, worked in it. But then you think about these other things, and you're like, all right, well, where does this digital media go? Okay, well, I'm going to put this here. Well, if this can go here, like, can people keep it? Can it go into video games? Like, how much can I put into video games?
Right, okay,
and then it's like, all right, now, like, everything you do opens up another thing. Like, you know what I mean? And that's actually exciting to me. Like, so, you learn something and you're like, all right, well, how far can we go with it? Like, let's totally act like I don't have anything else to do and grab 6 more responsibilities. Like,
Well, I mean, time management is the only barrier to this whole endeavor, really, isn't it? I mean,
For sure.
I try to map my days now, literally just hour by hour, as if I had, one thing that really hit me was there's this podcast called the Naval podcast, and the guy was talking about like your hourly rate and what your hourly rate should be worth. And one thing I did is I set my hourly rate to like £9,000 an hour. And I didn't sort of like, I'm not charging people that, but I'm just saying to myself, okay, if I'm worth $9,000 an hour, is the hour that I spend sitting down in the morning doing my emails worth it? And if it is, then I'm going to do it. And then, is the hour that I'm spending sitting speaking with you now, you owe me $9,000 now. I'm going to send you an invoice. I'm joking. But you know what I'm saying?
I feel like we should have spoken about it before.
But it's just learning to like value your time is just so important. You know what I mean? It's just like, that's the one way that you can value your time most, is by just putting a price on it and then going, okay, obviously spending time with my missus or my dog, it's priceless. What's that?
Does she owe you $9,000?
She owes me like £50 million. I'm joking, but that's really priceless time, like family time, because actually that is worth that money, because you're kind of, it's building your own soul. But when it comes to like work stuff, learning to sort of value the time that you spend on anything. And it's a lesson that I always forget, and I always end up doing stuff which isn't necessarily going to take me in that direction. But, learning 3D stuff, every hour of that was worth that money, I think, and
Absolutely.
yeah.
I've never looked at it from that, oddly enough, that I've never looked at it from that aspect. But that is always a tricky thing, right? Like, how do you put value upon yourself? You have to sit down and really do it. And it's different for people like us as well. And I don't know what you want to label it as, but it's very hard to just turn around and say, this is what I'm worth and I'm not budging from that. But you have to do it, because if you don't, you get taken advantage of as well.
But it's not, it's not even about being taken advantage of. It's also like, am I going to have that meeting?
Sorry, I'm a little bitter of things.
I mean, we all have things that we have to let go of at some point in our lives, man. Like, I'm so bitter about some stuff, but you just gotta go, because as long as the day's good and you're alive.
No, I think what you said earlier.
I'll send you the podcast. It's awesome. It's got the most clickbait, ridiculous title about like how to get rich, but it's actually a guy, and he works in Silicon Valley. He owns TripAdvisor, and TripAdvisor started as like a sort of like a thing where people would review products, but actually they worked out that it was more valuable to people to just review places instead of products, and that's how the concept of the app kind of developed. But the guy's pretty cool, and he's got a lot of good advice along those lines about how to kind of, optimize yourself.
Please send it.
I will. I think I feel like I did send it. I send a lot of these things to people, and then they're like, "Yeah, I'll watch it." Jake's is terrible. I send them loads of stuff.
You just get caught up, You're just like.
I totally
watch
understand.
YouTube and tutorials as well, so they kind of get lost in the fray if you don't stop and watch them right that second.
I think one of the best things that I learned is how to use Final Cut Pro X really fast.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Increase my workflow like at a different.
I got 4 Stream Decks all mounted into
you've got
this.
What? Yeah, that's fantastic.
So I built this whole like console out of wood, and then I covered it in leather the other day. I'm really proud of that. And so I got 4 Stream Decks in front of me here, and I can do all like the programming. But the best thing I found for the editing is this Shuttle Express, and I can just sort of like scroll through footage really fast, cut it, and then edit real fast. Super sick, bro.
Yeah, you got to send me the Amazon link for that.
I will. I'm sure it's probably cheaper in America. get the talking about like I don't get any kind of like stimulus checks, and the way that my business is set up, like I don't get like any help from the government whatsoever. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. So I'm just like, I have to grind every day. I've never felt like this before. I feel like this is what it must be to be like a self-employed kind of guy, I guess, and not have like. Where we're at. Well, I know I've always been this, but I always had a decent income.
More now than ever.
I always used to just work at the weekends and get paid, a decent amount to be able to survive. And now it's like literally have to work very hard all the time just to be able to survive. But, it's life, isn't it, man?
And when everything comes back, you're set up for, literally anything.
I hope so. I'll be rich, man. Because if I could do this and do that, trust me, I'll be like grinding. If I could go, I was talking to Rob from Respect, and as soon as it all opens up, I'm going to get on tour, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, man.
Come back over here.
Well, I don't even know what's it even like right now. I mean, from your
dirt
perspective.
Bikes and shotguns.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
The entire America is just one giant Mad Max film.
It's not really though, is it? Right now, I mean,
no, it's the opposite. It's you've got pockets of people who are following the science and staying down, and then there's everyone else. There's no in between.
Okay.
But most of the I live in the South. I live in Atlanta. We never close down. We're like Florida. Some people will call that a badge of honor. It is what it is. I was very vocal in the beginning about this. We're getting to a point now where I don't, live your life. I'm not gonna. You do what you do. I would prefer you not gather people in large spaces, but we're also getting better towards getting a vaccine. So hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I would just rather focus on the positive right now.
Did anyone that catch the thing yet? Or
yeah, I've had friends who've had it. I've had family members who've died.
I'm so sorry to hear that, man.
Family members who've passed away. Yeah, it affected me personally, and my entire immediate family is at high risk as well. I also am at high risk because I take a medicine that is an autoimmune blocker.
Okay.
Yeah. You were speaking earlier about how we've always been a little more in tune and appreciative. I mean, I've had a pretty crazy year myself. Even right before lockdown started, I was in a major car accident. And
wow.
I've been in procedures and surgeries since then. So, like, be in and out of the hospital, dealing with lockdown and creating all at the same time has put a different perspective on life for me personally.
Oh, I'm massively impressed even more now with your ability to do those tunes, even though you've been going through this stuff.
I had this little scar here. I had artificial disc replacement in my C4, C5, so there's a giant mechanical device.
Oh my God. Do you think that's going to affect you when you have to go through TSA now? Like, are you going to have a thing to be like, I got metal in my neck? Bionic.
I don't know. That'd be kind of cool, actually. That'd be kind of dope. But yeah, I just got arthroscopic shoulder surgery. I'm like my tail end of physical therapy for that.
Wow.
Luckily, all this happened when there are no shows. But man, it's been crazy. I had a right up the street coming home one night at 3 a.m. Beautiful night. Had a great time. Was at a stoplight. It was red. The light turned green. And just as the light turned green and I slowly crept through the intersection, a police car with a battering ram on the front of it doing about 65 miles an hour completely T-boned while me and the homie were in the car.
Oh, my gosh.
Like spun us around 180 degrees.
Whoa.
It's almost hit 2 pedestrians. Like, it was crazy, bro.
So you had almost like the near-death thing. And I know.
And then 2 days later, someone hit my rental car while I was trying to take it back.
Oh, man.
I was like, bro, I'm staying in a bubble. But yeah, I got my neck surgery. Over the weekend, I couldn't swallow. I had a hematoma build up that almost killed me. I had to go to the
wow. That sounds really intense. There's something about near-death experiences, I think, that really I know that I think DJ Fresh had like a brain tumor, and after that, he made all like his biggest hits. You know, like all the really really big sort of hits that connected. And I wonder if like this was something that I've heard. It was on like I think, have you ever watched Dave Pensado? It's like Pensado's place. It's a production thing. He gets loads of people on. It's a bit like this really, but for like pop really. And there was a guy on there who also had a near-death experience and said that he hadn't made the right music to connect with people yet. And it was the near-death experience that took, that fed him the right music to be able to move his thing onto the next level. And I think maybe, I feel like I don't wish myself any kind of near-death experiences, but I do wish sometimes that I would just capture the right idea and just execute on just that. I'm so sort of like scatterbrained when it comes to music. I'm like, I'm going to work on this and then I'm going to work on that. And I never really, it's always drum and bass. So I've always got the focus.
It's always excitement. You're eager to create. I think almost dying definitely put a different perspective on things. I've never been the type to follow a trend. I did things because I was excited to do them. But since my accident, there's definitely a layer of vulnerability I no longer am worried about subscribing to. I I've been doing this for a really long time. So the things that I write now and everything I do, hopefully having some purpose to not only speak to the now and the future and hopefully correct some things from the past all in one. And it took me laying on a hospital bed to really, I don't want to say if I fully understand it because I don't want to sit here and pretend like I've unlocked the secrets of life. No, it's not that. I just have a different view on things. And I've been through a lot before that. So now it was kind of like to feel the mortality of it all. We
Yeah.
all talk about, we've had friends pass, and you think about, man, what if I'm gone tomorrow? And that's kind of where I'm at now. It's like, okay, if I died tomorrow, what was the last thing I said?
Yeah, man. I've got this thing. I never go to sleep, or I try not to go to sleep without sort of like clearing any kind of disagreements with my missus or whatever. We always go to sleep like, I always fix whatever Barney we might have had in the day and make sure, because if you don't wake up, it's not going to be good. And actually coming back to like my early 20s, I had like really bad panic disorder, which put me in hospital a couple of times. And they thought I had like a heart problem, but it wasn't. They did like an echocardiograph on my heart and they said I had a big, strong heart. I'm all good. But I like sitting in a hospital bed there, I think I had a very similar kind of experience where, I watched kind of people pass away and their families around them and stuff because they put me on the wrong ward for a panic, dude. You know what I mean? They put me on some hectic death ward. So like maybe it was to sort of just chill me the fuck out and be like, you know what, you're actually all right. But maybe that was my time, maybe I've had that time and now it's just, maybe it's good to think back to those times and think, okay, like, it was really interesting to get through that. And it was probably just because it's complete lack of activity. I remember what put me in there the first time was, I was complaining to my cousin that I've been struggling to find inspiration. And he said, Dr. Dan, as my cousin's called Dan, recommends coffee. So I had like 6 coffees, I think, sort of like in quick succession. And then I just...
The recipe for disaster, for sure.
Woo!
For anyone.
Obviously, like, I was quite into bunning the weed at the time as well. So I was probably pretty high. And it wasn't a good recipe of like stimulants. That's like... uppers and downers are always good when mixed together, but maybe not in too much.
Jury's out on that one, for sure. And,
the eternal battle.
Catch the wrong strain of weed, too, and that's entirely too much thinking.
I mean, you guys are growing weed out there like it's the cure for cancer or something, man. You guys are like on some next level. I'm scared out there. I wouldn't, I haven't smoked for like almost 3 years now. It's been very dry because I moved out of the town that I was living in.
Congratulations.
And, well, I'm very happy about it.
Yeah,
it's totally out of my soul now. I don't, it's still within me. I'm still high all the time from all the time I spent high. But
I'm high right now. I'm totally not. It's way too early for that. I can only smoke at night now, chilling to relax and ease my mind right before I write or create or anything like that. But not even as a necessity, just because it's a nice nightcap. But during the day, can't do it anymore. No, I stopped smoking cigarettes. Thank God.
Congratulations, that's good,
bro. Thank you.
I still smoke this thing.
That's a big deal. The vape is what got me off it, man. Anyone who wants to know my regimen, I'll say it really quickly. I smoked a lot. And for a long time.
Yeah, I've been on tour with you, man. I don't have any cigarettes.
It was bad, bro. Like, second I got off a plane, it was just like, all right, work. So I was smoking cigarettes. I bought a Juul, which I don't recommend to anyone if you haven't smoked. If you haven't smoked, don't touch that thing. One hit and you're done for the rest of your life. But for someone who was a hardcore smoker, I smoked a Juul until that weaned off of smoking regular cigarettes, and I would go back and forth until I was just using the Juul, and then I realized how potent the Juul was, and I switched to a regular vape and just eased off it until it got down to about 0 nicotine in the juice, man. I swear by it to this day. That vape helped me out, and the more you do, the less nicotine in the actual vape juice. Just wean yourself off it. Take as much time.
I'm easing up.
Nah, you gotta go down.
I'm easing up. I'm on 18.
You have to make it just a mechanical addiction. So
surely this isn't like, it's not doing me too much harm. Is it nicotine that bad? No. They say that it's like a nootropic, isn't it? If you listen to Joe Rogan, he's always talking about, like nootropics.
No, I don't know.
Joe Rogan's lost the plot going over to that place.
I feel putting any kind of inhalant into your body is probably not the best decision.
It's true.
That's why my weed intake has gone down. Like, if I could eat it all day, I would. You know what I'm saying? So, to me, I tried to make it less about the addiction to the chemical and made it more about the fact that I just wanted to do this. And once I became just doing the mechanical thing, then I just woke up one day and was like, all right, well, what are you doing, really?
That's really cool.
Yeah.
No, I think, okay, I'll start weaning down the nicotine.
No, you do you. Look, I smoked for a very long time, and the one thing I hated was people telling me what to do. Like,
ex-smokers are the worst.
Oh, it's so bad. I just gave you my synapses real quick. Apply it or don't apply it. You're doing well. You're not smoking cigarettes. Congratulations.
Yeah.
It is like the second hardest addiction to kick on the planet. So
the weed one was really hard. I went over to the pens and I found that I could regulate pens a lot better than, British spliffs as well. When it's kind of weird the way that the British people smoke the weed. We kind of have it like with lots of tobacco and just a little sprinkling of weed in there. And it gets you that.
It's harsh.
It's harsh, man. Yeah. I don't know how many people still even really do that. But, it's always been a part of the culture for, definitely for drum and bass. If people are, unreliable enough in drum and bass, and then you just put weed in the mix, and then nothing's going to happen for a long time. But I like that. I like the slowness of this music, man. I like the way that, you could write a tune and it doesn't come out for 2 or 3 years.
That's the way, right?
Yeah.
It's so funny.
It's so awesome. But
I mean, like exact opposite. It's just like
hip hop.
We made it yesterday. Put it out.
We made it tomorrow.
It's already uploaded. Like, fam, I didn't even master it yet. Like, I don't care. Yeah, man. But man, drum and bass is, I can't even explain it, man. It saved my life, first of all, and how much goes into the science of it all, man, is just absolutely mesmerizing. To stand on stage and to see the people connect with it, man. I miss shows. I miss all of it. It's crazy. Can't wait
Yeah,
for.
it's been a big part of both of our lives for a long time, and I feel like the whole stages of acceptance through the grief process. I feel like I've been through them all. I feel like, to be
Oh,
honest, if I'm going to be totally honest, for the last 2 years before the thing, like, my career was changing anyway. I wasn't like the hottest ticket necessarily in certain territories. I was still coming to America and I was still going that. I still did like New Zealand and Australia, but like the gigs were slowly starting to get less. And I was like, okay, it was still big ones, but not really like the grassroots stuff.
same.
And maybe that's because the grassroots stuff wasn't really happening as much, or I just wasn't like the new hot name, or my price was too much, or whatever it was. But I saw kind of like the writing on the wall, and I'd already kind of started grieving the loss of my career, the sort of, or maybe just grieving like the peak of it. And these things have multiple peaks. And this is what I always try and keep in my mind is like, I might come up with the next biggest hit in the next. I might have already done it, and like it just hasn't come out yet, and it won't come out for a couple of years because it's drum and bass. But it's just one of those things. But yeah, I feel like I've fully accepted the loss of the gigs right now, and I am
Well, also too,
ready.
there's a part of even the change. Like, isn't that kind of part of never being satisfied? Isn't that kind of like, you know, sure, there was the sum of all things, right? I'm in the same position. I wasn't like, you reach a point in your career where you are waging those things. Like, am I the hot young kid, which I've learned doesn't mean anything, but also placing value on things, and am I being paid enough? How am I spending my time? Is this going to be the thing forever? I want to do this, but I also want to do other things. How do I start making all those things work? Like, that's the process, right? You know what I mean? It's just like, am I going to be DJ X's MC forever? Like, I have other things I want to do, and ironically, quarantine allowed us to do that. But we have gone through the stages. I put it in plain simple fact. My homie the other day, Black Jesus, we just released a song called Black Shishas, and he hit me up and was like, "Hey man, can you send me a clip of a show that you guys did so I can put it on the Spotify Canvas thing because they do the video now?" And I pulled up an old video of me and Nick and I on stage, and within 2 minutes, my daughter walked up and hugged me because she saw the look on my face. Like, she's like, "Are you
Uh,
okay?" And I was like, "Is it that obvious?" You know what I mean? Like, that part will never. So as much as I've been pivoting for something else, there is there are a few things on this planet as exhilarating as being on stage.
I think even like from,
Period.
I think
Like,
from a drum and bass, or you were emceeing for dubstep as well. I think, and those shows, and they're way more hyped than any rock show that I've ever been to. I think, unless it's like Tool or something, but
right.
especially like the drum and bass things. I've whipped crowds into like the most ridiculous frenzies, and it's just the best thing.
Ever.
I'm so
Even
nervous
to go
before.
deep, just the connection period. That type of connect. See, that was the thing about electronic music for me and MCing was like I've done hip hop shows, I've done battles and that intensity. But like when I first started listening to drum and bass, I was like, man, if you took hip hop and reggae and added that fuck you rock element to it, like you know what I mean? Like that's. I was like, this is it. This is just
Yeah.
okay, cool. You know, and then later on you learn. Uh, how layered this thing really is. You know, I'll sit with a tear out set with you, Goldie, and then slip into some like really melodic, soulful connection with Bookham. Like the levels of that connection there is just as intense as me telling you to start a mosh pit. Like it's the same.
I remember
It's the
I've
same
had
thing.
experiences where I've been sat on a plane, like I'm the guy I always upgrade, and I'll be sat next to some randomer on a plane, and having to explain if it's someone that's really chatty, I'm not really a chatty guy, but if they're going to chat to me, having to explain drum and bass to somebody who would have no concept of what the music is. And I've had a few different times where I've tried to explain it in different ways. And one way that I always found was really effective was it has like Motown beats. And then like the energy of Motown sort of beats. But because otherwise I feel like I would be describing techno to somebody if I was to describe it without that kind of like, it has that sort of that step in the beat to it that is not really, that's how I normally would go about. Because I mean, with somebody that has no connection to any kind of electronic music, some old dude,
Right.
Yeah, somebody actually saved my life on a plane.
No.
I was sat next to a doctor one time, and before he said anything to me, and I was so lucky because I upgraded this flight. I just do it now because I'm over, coach. And this
what
guy,
a snob, TC.
this guy just looked at me before he even sat down, and he's like, "You have sleep apnea," and I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I'm a doctor, and you have sleep apnea, I can tell." And I said, "I'm actually a DJ and I haven't slept for 3 days." And he's like, "Don't care.
Right.
You need to get yourself a sleep apnea machine. Otherwise you're going to die in like 2 or 3 years." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah." So like when I got back from that tour, I bought, he gave me his card and he actually showed me his sleep apnea machine that he had on the plane that he was taking around with him. Because he's like, "I have sleep apnea too. And I can tell just by looking at the bags under your eyes, how tired you look. And I can just tell, And he just totally saved my life, man. You're good. You look like you sleep well. I made you get up early.
Bro.
I'm so
Anyone
sorry.
who knows me know that that's a very false statement. I don't sleep well, man.
Really?
No.
Interesting.
Massive insomnia. A lot of that goes into random spats of depression, which is a completely different conversation. But a lot of it is insomnia. I sleep maybe. So, especially now, because the kids are home a lot. So we work with them. We probably put them in bed about 9. I'll spend time with the missus till whatever o'clock, and then I work until about 2, 3 a.m. And then I'm up at 6:30 to take the kids to school.
Wow.
And repeat.
I mean,
Every now and then I hit a wall and sleep for like 7, but most of the time it's like 4 hours a day.
I've been on tour with you and you're definitely sort of sparky. Well, you're not really sparky in the mornings. You're a bit grumpy in the mornings, but, you're definitely up in the mornings and like ready to get going. Yeah, it's all good.
Well, I'm happy to be alive, man. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good thing.
Like, it doesn't make a difference, like, especially on tour. Like, I was that dude. For anyone who doesn't know me, MC Armanni Rain is also /tour manager. I'm the one knocking on everybody's door.
Me too.
Like,
you never had to knock on my door. I'm up.
Never. You never got to knock on my door either. Like,
I don't
you and I, we were on tour. Anytime we were on tour, it was you and me up with coffee, ready to go. Like, sitting in the lobby waiting for everybody else. If I'm late, I was wild tired. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I'm constantly moving. And the funniest part about all this, ladies and gentlemen, is I feel like I'm not doing anything. That's the wildest thing about all this. Is like, no matter how much we do, like even now, I'm working on 2 separate albums. I said this the other day on Twitter. I'm working on 2 separate albums, got the podcast, a bunch of collabs, yada, yada, yada. And because like there are times I'm just not sitting around, but like it's not showing to the world. It feels like I'm doing nothing.
It feels like the days off, really, because that's what this would be. It would be like, it's like days off, but without the hideous kind of like switch back to being not nocturnal anymore. I had to admit to myself that I suffered from bouts of depression too. And I think a lot of it had to do with diet for me, which was like, I think there's certain things in certain foods that really disagree with me. And, I occasionally experiment and I have some fast food. And then for 2 or 3 days after that, I am done. And if I just eat clean, just like, meat and vegetables that I cook myself, You know, I have all the energy in the world. I'm so, you know, driven and motivated. If I eat anything prepared by anyone else, it just doesn't work for me. I think it's, you know, just one of those things that, like, that's why I think I struggle so much on tour, you know, because of the food aspect. And just like, for me, I've always battled my weight. My body is designed to live in the tundra. My body count every literal calorie of my being is saved. It's just like, we must put this in his belly for later. You know what I mean? Sugar?
I'm getting there. I wasn't like that before, but now, you know.
My metabolism's like, yes, sugar, carbohydrates, turn it into fat. Gotta keep it for a rainy day. So, you know.
Tesla used to be like, eat anything.
One of them ones.
Chill out. used to.
Yeah. I remember we had quite a good meal one time at the beginning of the Viram tour. That was nice, man. Was that you?
Yeah, the steak and wine. That was the steak and wine, me and TC and I moment. I will never forget that day.
That's a vibe.
Yeah, man. We sat and chatted about non-music things. That was the things. That tour was great. I loved it.
That was a great tour. I would like to do that tour again, apart from Seattle.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that again. That was a fucking anomaly. But it happens, you know? But that was...
Even New York on that tour was good. And that's only happened to me, you know, the World of Drum and Bass in New York the other time, last time.
was good. We had a lot of good shows, man. That was... Yeah, we should do that again. It's funny. So we ended up, in Toronto, right? That was the night I was deathly sick. Like, bubonic flu. Crazy. And, like, MC for 15 minutes, step off stage, puke in a trash can.
Oh, no.
MC for 4 hours. And, like... No one even knew.
I'm pretty sure that a couple times I have cheekily puked on the side of the stage and then gone on and DJ'd.
Bro, you just gotta do what you gotta do. People
There's
like,
one...
I'm surprised you show up. Like, you have no idea how much, one, I love this, two, hate missing shows. Like,
I can think of maybe 3 shows that I've missed in my career, I think. Which is pretty good going, I think. Maybe 4 or 5. But 3. nothing crazy.
I only have one where I completely, like, okay, that was my bad. And it's a pretty funny story, actually. I was driving to D.C. with Nate Day, shout out, and Sharpness. And we were literally just going to... I don't even believe we had a gig. I think we were just driving down to hang out. Driving from Philly, and we're, like, halfway through the trip, and wilding in the car, just smoking, chilling. And my phone rings. I pick it up, and I'm like, yo, and it's Craze. And he's like, yo, where you at? And I'm like, chilling, I'm on my way to D.C., where you at? He was like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah. No. He was like, I'm in L.A. We had a gig. And I was like, oh my God, I thought that was next week. One time he was like, yo, it's cool. Because everyone knows. I would never make that mistake. I felt so terrible. But
there's
like,
at least one more MC in LA that can cover for you too. That wasn't like the worst.
Everything was fine. But it was just like, that was the worst one. I think I've missed maybe 2 other gigs besides that, and that was because I was either deathly sick or like something else happened. You know what I mean? But you're not gonna catch me missing a gig, bro.
Soldiers.
I started this thing in a car accident in Baltimore. Got 3 stitches here, 3 stitches here. Bought new clothes and flew to New Orleans that day. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna take a lot to keep me home. If
a pandemic, maybe.
Well, yeah, right. Goddamn pandemic. This has been a long 365 days.
Madness, bro. Madness.
Light at the end of the tunnel, though, man.
There we go. That's the good thing. I was hoping that it would go bright again.
Did it. Congrats.
We didn't do it. We're not free here. We're not free yet.
No, but we're getting there.
We're fully locked down, but Australia and New Zealand are opened up, which is pretty cool. And all the DJs are out there living it up, that life. And yeah, it will come back. It will be back.
It'll be back sooner than I thought it was going to be. I'll even say.
Yeah, did you on? I was on the like. This is going to be 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, something on our show. You were like, it's never happening. We're all going to, like Jesus, T.
Collect your gold and silver.
Guns and ammo.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I'm still on that tip, but I do still think it's coming back sooner than we thought. We might. Well, here in America, it's fine now. Not really, but people are opening up now. So I think by the end of the year, things will be clear. I think parties will start up next month, but by the end of the year, we'll be completely like shut.
Sick. Well, on that note, on the reopening of everything, I want to just say thank you so much for your time today. And man, I appreciate you getting up early, or at least not having your morning nap.
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you so much.
I'm honored to be, man. I appreciate you.
It's been really interesting to talk to you again on another level, which is, these conversations are they're getting more and more dear to my heart. I watch them back again because I have to edit them, and then I usually watch them again because there'll be like 4 or 5 bits of information or just thoughts or feelings that I want to take from it and write down and just be like, yep. Or, I probably wouldn't have had that chance if this was just a random conversation on tour. So it's really cool.
No,
and thank you,
That's what's been cool about this whole situation, right? Is like, not only just that, but for the people, and I don't want to say this about me because I'm saying I run a podcast, so I know how you're feeling. Like, the fact that we get to show the world this other side of us too, like it's a really cool thing when we had you on. Like, people are like, I never saw that side of T. And I was like, I see that side of T all the time. And that's what makes him a beautiful human being. So it's really good to show the world that, you know what I mean? So I appreciate you. I appreciate what you do, and keep pushing, man. Big love always.
Same to you, man. Keep on the good path and, stop smoking that weed.
Only at night, bro. New music coming though, man. Society of Numbers.
It's so good.
All right, yeah, man. Switch that to
when?
Shamani Routine Poutine. Soon.
Yeah, them ones.
When it's done.
Yeah,
we're close.
Yeah. Well, as soon as the music comes out, I will 100% support that throughout my networks and give you retweets and just shout about it, because I've not really heard music that's come through into my ears that's made me feel like that for quite a long time. So it's it
means a lot. I'm terrible at taking compliments, but thank you. That means
no, it's cool. I hate compliments too, so it's fine. I totally
especially
understand.
with this too, because I've poured something into it.
I feel that.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's like sweet. This
big shout out to Bro as well for the instrumentals, because
Nick is a goddamn genius.
They're definitely a win from my point of view. The feelings in there are just so good. But yeah, thank you so much. I will see you soon. I hope. WOLFPACK. Assemble.
Love you, bro.
So if you found anything in this video interesting, please smash the like button. Don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you can keep up to date with all that's new from me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you have any ideas for future videos, I read all your comments. Don't forget to join the Discord server and check out the links to the samples and presets in the description. A massive big up to Armanni, Rain, and all the WOLFPACK. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.